Welcome to another episode of Silverman Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto. Today's guest, we have Saenz. He was an NCAA qualifier for Cal Poly. He wrestled at Fresno State before the program got dropped. He transferred to Cal Poly. And then now recently, after graduating from Cal Poly this year, he entered the transfer portal and was recruited by a number of programs. He recently committed to wrestle for Division II San Francisco State University for his final year of eligibility. I'm really excited to talk to him about this process that he's been on, like what's it like being in the portal, talking about his wrestling journey, because it's been a journey. 3 different college programs, that hardly happens, right? So again, really excited to have him on. Really lucky to have him as a guest. Saenz, hope you guys enjoy the show. All right, man, we'll start recording. So Lawrence, dude, like just for one, like congratulations. You know, I wanted you to go to CSUV, but you know, I'm happy for you, and you know, you seem like a good guy just talking to Trent Tracy and stuff like that. And I know Jason Welch a little bit because I did a camp with him, and I think you know, that's a pretty cool area to go to school and wrestle at. But kind of just talk about, dude, what's been going on this summer, because you enter the transfer portal, you graduate, and was it just a bunch of chaos? Like what was going down?
Yeah, chaos is definitely one word to describe it. When I entered the portal, I had to enter the portal because I didn't get into grad school at Cal Poly. And the timing of it all, at the time when it first happened, I was in a place of, my mind was in chaos because everything that was kind of set and planned for me, that I kind of had set and planned, kind of like came crumbling down. Like, I didn't know. I was trying to apply to other schools. I'm contacting coaches. I'm kind of all over the place. And it's been an interesting summer, honestly, just trying to adjust and being comfortable with the uncertainty of it all, really. And like uncertainty in that, like, it's like an uncertainty, I guess, I really haven't like felt in a while, because I feel like we go through uncertainty and like such as things like wrestling, like matches and all that, but like this type of uncertainty was like a big life choice, in that I had to figure things out fast, and I had to really kind of understand what I wanted from my last year of eligibility, really.
Yeah. So kind of like when it came down to, I know it kind of came down to a handful of schools. What ultimately kind of led your decision, like, I want to go to SF State?
Yeah. I think my values have shifted a lot around. I mean, definitely they shift around when from when you enter college to when, obviously now that I've graduated from undergrad. When I first entered college, really like was in the mindset I wanted to wrestle for an RTC, wanted to wrestle internationally. And not to say I like couldn't or still can't, but as I got older, I got a few injuries and I started to kind of like mature a little bit. I realized if I were to go the RTC route, I would essentially be committing my entire like rest of my like 20s to that really like Olympic type of dream, you know? Yeah. Like I would definitely be doing myself a disservice if I like felt like if I just tried to do it somewhere like, I don't know, where if I didn't, I would have to go 100% into it, and going 100% into that dream, it didn't really line up with like my values and where I wanted to go with my life. Really, I didn't want to spend the rest of my 20s kind of chasing the glory of international wrestling. And yeah, that's where and then I started looking more into schools, and what it came down to really is and why I chose SF State was the opportunities I found through their grad program, and just to start my professional career, really.
I think it's interesting you pointed out, like, you know, as you've matured, you've kind of gotten away from that glory chasing. And I feel like that's something that a lot of younger wrestlers, like myself included, when, you know, I first started competing and stuff in college, like, you know, you have these dreams, right? It's like, I want to be a national champion. I want to be an All-American. And it's like, yeah, that's got to be your goal, right? I think especially if you're wrestling Division I, like that's kind of why you're there. But yeah, for me, like I almost, like, it's not like I never stopped loving wrestling, but I almost became, I think, somewhat resentful of it. you know, because you get in the point where it becomes a grind. And for me, it's like wrestling isn't just like a sport. It's also like how it's going to sound kind of lame, but how I find enlightenment, you know, like it's
Yeah.
more than just something that I do. It's something that's like a part of me and how I use to make sense of life, you know? And I think, for me, like kind of recognizing just some of the stuff you're saying, like, I don't know if you kind of share a similar view, but you just sound like somebody that loves wrestling. And, you know, it's like, it doesn't have to be this grind. It doesn't have to be this something bigger than it needs to be almost.
Yeah. Well, one big realization I guess I had over the summer was, I mean, I've always really had the goals of being an All-American national champ, obviously at that level. I always like goals, but I think a lot of the times we're kind of asked in wrestling kind of your why. And my why specifically was essentially be like the best version of myself, in and out of like to use wrestling as an outlet to become the best version of myself, whether it's in wrestling or out of wrestling. And I think that maturity really kind of like set my mindset for after I kind of entered the portal, and it changed my, like, not necessarily my goals. I had those goals, but it was more like who I started to think more of, like, not just the goals, but like also who am I going to become in pursuit of these goals? Because I think that's what more so the goals are orientated for. I think we get so stuck on the need to accomplish these goals. We kind of neglect and beat ourselves up for not accomplishing these goals, but like also we don't give ourselves credit maybe for what we've done in pursuit of your goals of being a national champ or All-American, right? I like just to think of like my career. If you were to tell my 18-year-old self coming out of high school that I would be accepted into grad school, I'd tell you, you're crazy. I'm not going back to school. Just my values were just completely different. And my mindset really, like, all I could think of really was like, again, wrestling, like, and I think that's fine, but I never really gave myself credit. Like, I honestly, without wrestling, I honestly probably wouldn't even gone to college. I would have maybe went to a community college because my parents wanted me to, but I never was one for school really. And I think a lot of wrestlers are like that, really. Like wrestling kind of takes their life over compared to like academics or anything else, really. And I think it's really important to kind of step back and really kind of like analyze what your goals are and really, I guess the thing for me was not I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. It's like, who planted those like goals in you, and like are not like are those goals really for you, but like how can you, I guess sometimes I feel like these big goals are kind of like thrown onto you as like a standard, which I think is fine, like, but it's like, what do you ultimately want to get out of the sport and or your experience, I guess is what I'm trying to think of. And like that's what I kind of had to think of. And yeah.
Yeah, I think most competitors kind of go on what you're saying. Like they get caught up so much on the result. Like this is, again, kind of sound cliche, but you forget about the process, right? It's like if your goal is to be a All-American or national champ, well, it's like, okay, you say that and you can see maybe like a number, or you can see like the trophy and what that is, but you don't necessarily see what it represents. It's like, it means waking up early, right? It means, being focused on something, like caring about something. And, those are the attributes that really, like, when we think about the process, it's like, okay, maybe the long-term deal, like the result is national champion, All-American, but the process should be those little goals, right? It should be, all right, like I'm going to get better at something. I'm going to get better at a skill. I'm going to learn how to be accountable to other people and be accountable for myself. And when I think about, kind of what you're saying, it's like looking at who you're going to become. It's more of those small goals. Like the process is always more important, I think, to me. And that's kind of what we preach to our coaching staff too, is like the process has got to be way more important than the result. The result's going to happen. If you take care of the process, for sure, like they're going to happen. But Yeah, it's almost, I think that's maybe why a lot of guys, when they get done wrestling, they're so like results focused that when they, most of the time they don't achieve that result, it's like, okay, I just spent the last, 10, 15 years doing this, and then my identity's gone. I'm not a wrestler anymore. Like, what am I doing now?
Yeah, no, I know that's really, I think the identity for me has been really kind of transformative over the past year, 2 years. While I've been kind of working with we had a mental coach. His name's Dr. Boyd. He wrestled for Indiana. He was a couple time in All American. Coyote Cooper, Coyote Cooper, is what we say, his name. And yeah, really good dude. He's taught me a lot on just, and we worked a lot really on just kind of like, again, the working on the process, on things, just your mindset, before, after matches, your rituals that you kind of do throughout the day, your daily habits. And like, I think that's one of the things I've probably been most grateful for, working with him. Because not only like, I think through wrestling, it instilled a lot of like really solid, healthy habits, for me to like kind of live by for the rest of my life. But also like, I think working with Coy has really instilled in me a really nifty like process that I can kind of apply to different aspects of my life. And also,
No, so like it was weird for a second. Like you were kind of cutting in and out, and like I kind of lost you for a second though. But I kind of get what you're saying, right? Like, so kind of question though, how does it work with having this what do you call him? Is it team psychologist?
kind of, yeah, I would say we call him a team psychologist. He's so he works with us, with a couple of our, well, he worked with a couple of our Cal Poly guys. I worked with him like once a week, and it would just be over kind of like anything really. You could go over match strategies, your pre-match ritual, your habits. I'm just plugging in on the charger. But he was a real useful tool in the fact that I was able to kind of like pinpoint certain things, because I feel like before then, like I had habits from wrestling, but like I wouldn't do, not like little things, I guess, that would kind of like maybe like are not as like maybe impactful to some people, but like making your bed, habits of like establishing habits that you want to do. Like, I don't know, I've like really tried to work on reading every day, my journaling. With him, we do our meditation and like breath work stuff. So he's been a real useful tool in just establishing those habits, and really kind of like gracefully working on with us, because I feel like he brings a cool perspective,
Yeah.
that many old coaches don't really have. I feel like, where a lot of old coaches are like, the thought is like, you lose, you're then given negativity, like you're given a punish, like if you lose, you're doing sprints. That's like a negative reinforcement, where like he kind of takes a step back, and like, even if like we'll like work on his the journaling, and he doesn't really, he doesn't care, he doesn't judge you, he doesn't really like punish you in any way. He's like literally there to kind of help you and guide you every step of the way, and that like whatever, like that just depends on the person really, and like that was a big like realization I guess I had when I was like when I first started working with him. Because when I first started working with him, I mean, I was like every other high school, college guy. When I would lose, I would have this huge like negative reaction, and it honestly, I would argue like it hurt me more than it helped me throughout my college career. You take these bumps and losses, and you give yourself this negative reinforcement, and it really kind of like destroys your confidence and or just your progress. And his system has really kind of helped me kind of handle those losses, and then also like pinpoint them and move forward from them, really.
Did you have him as a coach pretty much through like your time at Cal Poly, or was it something that you kind of came on later?
No, pretty much I'd say, let's see, 2020, the end of 2021. So yeah, he was there for about 2 years, pretty much most of my Cal Poly career. But yeah.
When he would do like these journal, would they be like assignments, or would it be something that like he gives out the entire team, or is it really just kind of more individualized?
It's definitely individualized. So for me, I did my journaling every day, and it would be like I'd write, one or two things that I'm grateful for. I'd kind of write a couple keywords that I kind of thought about on like who I want to become as like a person and like what like I want to work on throughout the day. Um, and then my final one was just kind of like what I kind of need to get, what I'm going to get done that day is really what I kind of like wrote down. And it's kind of individualized. Some guys, would just focus on gratitude. They would just write their things they're grateful for. And I think that's another thing that he preached around too, that I really like too, is just the gratitude piece that I know. And you can kind of find remnants of this now when you if you like look at Penn State's guys, they'll talk about gratitude, or even like any high level really combat athlete, I think is really gratitude, because it is such a grueling sport and grueling like scene in MMA. I think you really have to like pull in like pieces that like you have to remind yourself like why you're doing it, and like find the things that you're actually grateful for in your life. Otherwise, you're gonna burn out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's some people that, and I'm sure you've heard them, that think burnout doesn't exist, but it's kind of like, if you're losing or things are hard continuously, like the human mind and the body can only take so much. I think like definitely trying to be gracious and trying to find the good things or the light that's happening around you. I mean, it just has so much benefits. Like, do you watch or listen to like Andrew Huberman or like any of
Yeah,
those?
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of talks about stuff like that. It's like it changes like your actual like your body's like makeup, like your
Physiology.
physiology.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
it's crazy, but it makes sense in a way.
No, I agree. And like it's an interesting like concept, because it definitely makes my training days or my like days better when I like focus on that stuff. Um, but yeah.
Was it hard making the journaling and the bed making and all that stuff like a habit to start with?
Yeah, no, so that's like part of the process that we kind of go over too, is really habit forming. And I got the opportunity the past year to kind of like mentor and like work with some of the guys the freshmen that started working with Koi in a group on habit forming and like how you go about that process. Because when I first started working with Koi, um, my the what I wanted to do was like I was super ambitious. I was like, all right, I'm gonna wake up at this time. I'm gonna make my bed. I'm gonna read in the morning. I'm gonna do this. That I had like 80 million like habits that I wanted to establish right away, and I did just all fell apart like right away. And what I realized really is you have to take that like one step at a time. I mean, at least if you're a normal human being like I am, I don't know, someone out there maybe is capable of it, but you had to take, we stopped, we kind of grouped. And this goes back to like the humility of it. He was kind of like, so how's it going? Like, I was like, I was also more comfortable to be more like honest with him, because I was like, well, like, cause I know he's like, he doesn't care. Like, I was like, well, honestly, like my habits have been really inconsistent. I've barely been able to get anything on a consistent basis. And he's like, all right, let's like pull this back and kind of like you're kind of overwhelming yourself. Let's stick to one habit and then kind of build from there, right? So it's just, waking up at a certain time, boom, got that done. Making your bed, boom, got that done. And then continuously build it. And then also just little like what are they called? I forget the technical term for it, but it's like when you're building a habit, just the time, or not the time, but the place of your habit, and then like
place building. So if I'm going to read, I read in a specific place, or more specifically, what is it?
I can't think of it either. I think I know what you're talking about though. It's like, this is like your brain is starting to create like a neural pathway where it recognizes that one specific
connection. So like if I go brush my teeth in the morning, what else? Like what do I do right after that? What, like a connection to the next habit, right? So once you form one habit and you strengthen one, you kind of, you tail another habit on top of it. So like that was definitely just a process, and that that made me, I was really grateful for that, because I would say outside of wrestling, I was very not disorganized. I was pretty disorganized. Like I would, if I didn't have anything for wrestling or school, I wasn't waking up like too early. I was kind of like less of a person who wanted like, I was like, I live by like the moment more than like what I actually maybe wanted to do. And I guess what it kind of working with Koi has kind of given me the freedom to kind of like think about what I actually want to accomplish and do, and then how do I establish those habits and kind of move forward.
I think that's so important. Like, I really wish I had something like that at CCB, like somebody to kind of have those kinds of talks with. Like, you can talk to your college coach, but I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe as I've gotten older, like after I'm done competing, I can kind of have those conversations. But it's hard to have those conversations while you're competing with your coach sometimes. At least that was my experience. Like, you don't want to get in trouble, right? Like, you don't want to disappoint them. But it sounds like is Coyote Cooper? That's his name.
Yeah.
With him, it sounds like he's not maybe directly like a part of like the running practice element of it, just from what it sounds like. So you kind of he's kind of like a third party that you can kind of talk to without necessarily, you know what I mean, like having to go through your coaches to do that.
No, and yeah, he's been a big progress, even with the helping me like through the transfer process, and just my life problems in general. Really, I feel comfortable enough to ask him about things, and yeah, he gives phenomenal advice, really. And he's just like he reminds me like an old like wise like grandmaster. I mean, he's not old, but
yeah. Wow. So he wrestled at Indiana. How long ago did he wrestle at Indiana?
I don't know the exact years.
Like early 2000s or like before that?
I want to say before that.
Oh, damn.
I don't. He looks pretty good for his age, so I think he is like, I think he wrestled maybe in the 90s. I'm trying to think.
If he's watching right now, dude, and you're wrong.
I don't. Yeah, he'll probably watch part of this. But yeah, I don't know what years he wrestled, but he taught at UNC for a while. And now he's working for himself, and he's traveling the country with his family, which is really cool.
I kind of want to get into like just your path to where you're at now, dude, because I don't think there's too many people that have wrestled at 3 different universities, over a 6-year time frame, which is crazy. So like, you started at Fresno State, COVID happened, they dropped the program. Like, kind of talk about maybe those early years of your college career. Like, what was it like? Because I wrestled at CCB, and I'm proud to say every time we dueled them, we beat them up, and there was maybe a couple close duels, but that was kind of like, chip on the shoulder kind of thing. But it's sad that they cut the program, dude. Like, that sucks for wrestling. Yeah,
no, I agree. Like, I was really sad that they cut the program, and Fresno is an interesting place. It's got a really rich culture in wrestling. And I think that's what when I first got there, that's what I really like enjoyed about it, really. Everybody in that whole area wrestles, and it's really cool to just watch it on every really level. Like, I remember going to like Clovis Buchanan duels and watching their duels. I'm like, holy crap, this is like a college duel meet. This is like honestly even more like hype than a college duel meet. Like, you have so many people packed in here, and you see even what they do with Doc B. and it's crazy. The kind of performance they really kind of not performance, but I guess the spectacle really that they kind of put on display for like fans and stuff. I think that's really cool and kind of shows what wrestling can be. It's really unfortunate. I'd say from my experience, yeah, I was there for about 2 years at Fresno. Again, I really like the culture around wrestling. Um, do you anything specific you want me to like talk about?
Yeah. So I mean, like for one, you're talking about like the dual meet experience. Like that was one of my favorite things was wrestling at Fresno State in the dual. Like I forgot how many people were there, but it's like thousands of people. The Red Wave, and like they partitioned off part of the arena. Dude, it was so much fun. Like maybe talk about, because there were some big teams that came in and wrestled you guys, right? So maybe talk about that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I actually didn't get to wrestle in some of those duels.
You wrestled in a couple, like you wrestled Air Force, you wrestled CSUB.
I did, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was like a couple. Like, yeah, I was behind DJ at the time before I cut down to 33s, and yeah, no, the duels were really cool. It was always being a red shirt, and then also like kind of like sitting back my first or second year and watching the duels and then seeing all the fans and stuff. And I think that just that atmosphere and like the production of everything was like it makes you, it's like a dream for really for like what like you want as a college wrestler, like just everything about it. It's such a fun and cool like experience to really have. And I think that it's just really unfortunate that that's like no longer, it's not that it's not a possibility, but it's just like it obviously the program's not no longer existing. So
What was it like getting the news? Because it was during COVID, right? So it was kind of a weird thing. I'm sure you guys weren't like all in a room somewhere and it's like, hey, you're getting cut. Like what was that like?
yeah, I think we're on like a training break because I want to say this is like October. Yeah, this is October.
So you guys
And
were back on campus pretty much having like, the COVID kind of practices. Okay.
yeah, so me, Jacob Wright, Kyle Parko, and a couple other guys, we kind of run those practices. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. We practice that red wave.
Yeah, dude.
We
Compliance is out the window at this point.
yeah, compliant. We practiced at like the local Red Wave club, and because they wouldn't even let us in our facilities. We couldn't use the locker room. We couldn't really do anything. So we'd have practices like normal, kind of random. And then we were lifting outside. I actually won't say that or where we were lifting because that was a plate. It doesn't matter.
I think we're still within the statute of limitations. So, but if you do get in trouble, hey, a public defender, so you'll be okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we're training like normal, really. I mean, I'm sure everyone else in the country during COVID was doing the exact same things. If anything, people in the Midwest probably had less limitations. Anyway, yeah. So, and then I think we had a little small training break. I don't quite remember, but I just remember I was in the car and I was driving, and I got a text, or I got an email first saying we're gonna have a meeting with Terry Toomey, and then once I got that email, I got a few texts, and they were like, "Hey, call me," and I was like, "What? What do you mean call it?" Like it was like imperative. So I think it was Jacob Wright and one of the coaches called me after, and they were like, "Hey, they're dropping the program." And then like this is like probably like 4 or 5 hours before the call was gonna be like set. And I like pull over and I'm like looking on social media, and I'm like seeing it on social media before like we even have this meeting, before I'm even getting text. I'm like, how does social media know this before I do? And yeah, and then so essentially 4 or 5 hours go by. Everyone before that is kind of like texting each other, like saying like, what are we gonna say, ask, or what are we gonna question? And it was literally like the fastest conversation you'll have. And I'm sure I mean, some of the people I've talked to about previous programs, like it's a very similar, like it's almost like the same situation every single time, like the same type of meeting every single time. Like when I asked Chambo about when Boise State dropped,
Yeah.
it's like the same, like they refuse questions. So like we go in, he gives us a little spiel, a little speech, and he talks about how they'll be dropping 3 sports. It was like 2 women water, no, was it water polo? No, it was lacrosse, some other women's sport, and wrestling. And and then he kind of prefaces it with this was purely under like costs because of COVID and the pandemic. And every time we asked him a question, we were met with the same kind of like answer, and it was that this was purely financial because of COVID and the pandemic, and it was weird. Like, and then like after like I think maybe like 5 or 10 questions of answering the same thing, he just kind of like cut the call.
Oh, dude,
Well, not like cut it, but like he was like, "All right, that's the end of the call. Like that's it."
well, so from so Mike Mendoza and Riley Roscoe, they were at CCB before they went to Boise, so they're the ones that recruited me. And kind of talking to them about that process, like I don't even think they got to directly told the guys like the coaches did. Like I think Mendoza was in his office, and some compliance guy starts passing out like transfer forms to the team. Like they're in the wrestling room. But dude, like I know like initially, I think it was a little bit different than Stanford in terms of, the exact like thing that was happening maybe, but I don't know. I guess I don't really want to go down that road. Never mind. But, just financially, was that something that, initially is like, we're going to fight this, we're going to raise funds, we're going to try to support these programs, or was it something that like the university was just like hard pass, we're not doing that?
It felt like our whole compliance office was really against us. So like, I mean, and we had even problems with them in regards to like, I remember they weren't happy that we established like the RTC so we could essentially, because we would have donors bring in money for wrestling because wrestling's big in that area, and they would have to give it to the athletic department. Athletic department would give some of it to like football or other sports when they wanted it specifically for wrestling. So then we started the RTC, and then they weren't happy that we had the RTC because we could take those funds directly, and they couldn't really take that. So like, just like little things with the compliance that I know like was on like the back end, and there was an initial kind of fight, and I think that's why guys obviously stayed. However, it in the end of the in my view, I was just like I needed to do what was kind of best for me. So like I entered the portal. And it worked out for me. I went to Cal Poly. And I think, I mean, whether most of those guys it worked out for all of them really. Parco ended up staying. He obviously transferred to Arizona State. Hayden Drury, he stayed. He ended up going to Utah Valley. Trying to think of some other guys, but yeah, some guys. Right, went to Wyoming. Hemauer went to UNC for a while. I believe he had 2 years. I think he got hurt a while. A lot of guys kind of, it's hard too because it's like once that happens, everyone kind of has to go, especially because COVID. We all had to kind of go, or like it wasn't like we all like had a barbecue and like, all right, see you guys when I see you. It was kind of like I probably won't ever see you, for a while.
I mean, it's kind of like a nasty divorce, dude. It's just like breaks people up, and that sucks, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like what you said. Like, I think it ended up working out for you. Like, you go up to Cal Poly. What was that kind of process like? I know you said that compliance was probably difficult, but what was that process, I guess, when you first get to Cal Poly and just interacting with the coaches and the guys on the team?
Yeah. When I first got to Cal Poly, I didn't really know anyone really. I knew of Barney. I wrestled Barney throughout high school, and that's all. That's my really only connect I really had at Cal Poly. and they were really welcoming, really inviting. I loved being there. I loved the coaching staff. I loved all the guys. I think what really truly makes that program special is the culture they've been able to cultivate through their guys, and I really hold like that program to a higher standard because they focus on the culture of the guys they bring in, and I think that's such an underrated aspect in recruiting. Um, and yeah, so I'd say the transition honestly was really smooth. Like in terms of like getting along with guys, but in wrestling it was kind of hard because I remember it was me and Adam Kemp. We're like three weight classes he's three weight classes above me. He was 165 at the time. I was 141, and we were training on our own in Sacramento because as soon as we signed that transfer form for Fresno State from like November to like January when the season was starting for COVID, we were just training up in Sacramento. I like Uriah. Actually, Uriah. It was Uriah Jim's gym.
Alpha male.
Yeah, Alpha Male. He was his dad was actually coaching there at the time, so we were training there, and I like to think we trained pretty hard, but we didn't have quite the resources as like we were just training with each other. Really, it was like I'm wrestling live goes with Adam, and I'm like getting my ass whipped, and it was funny because I remember our first duel. It was like January, maybe like the first week after school. It was against Oregon State, and me and Adam were both wrestling like top 15. I think I was wrestling Grant Willits. He was ranked pretty high at the time, and Adam was wrestling Mateo almost, yeah.
Mhm.
And we were both. I'm pretty sure he was winning his match, but I was winning my match like most of the match, and we both gassed out like so hard. We just like at the very third period, and then after that, we had to we became what is known as, it was me, Adam, and Tinker, our heavyweight. All us three all gassed out against Oregon State, and we became the Biker Boys. So after practice, every single day, or not every day, maybe it was like every other day, they would throw us on the Aerodyne bike, and we'd have Aerodyne sprints, or no, it was 500 or 100 calories. 100-calorie sprints. You have to do it under a certain amount of time. And oh man, yeah, those definitely suck.
Dude, I feel like that whole season was kind of a weird one. Like I know at the national tournament, like you had a bunch of different upsets. You had guys that hadn't seen each other throughout the season, really because it was shortened. And then guys would gas out, just and I can't imagine like having to train in that kind of scenario. Like, we did a little bit. We did what we could at the high school level, but we didn't have a season in that 21 year. But dude, I can't imagine that. I just feel like it would be just awkward and hard.
No, it was really. It was interesting as too because all like the COVID protocols, the testing we had to do every week. Yeah, I don't think I ever had no. Yeah, and then some guys, some guys didn't even. So with our school, some guys had to actually they had to quarantine for longer because they weren't even vaccinated. So like I think I remember Bernie, credit to Bernie. Bernie literally they had to like work out on their own. Like be like extra time quarantining really.
Yeah, that was something too that was I don't know, it can kind of lead into something political, I guess, which we don't need to go down to if you don't want to, but
Yeah.
it's just like, dude, it's like, okay, you have to basically get vaccinated, otherwise there's going to be a longer penalty, for quarantine. But it's interesting now, it's like it doesn't even matter, you know what I mean? But it's like a couple years ago, it's like it was the biggest deal ever. But yeah, I don't know, it's unfortunate. But yeah, kind of moving forward, right? So you have your career at Cal Poly, and you kind of enter the transfer portal after graduating. Do you want to maybe talk about like what was that recruiting process like? Because I know it was something that was maybe, from what it sounds like, more unplanned. who were some of the schools that were kind of reaching out to you other than San Francisco State and CCB?
Yeah. I talked to a handful of schools actually, all ranging from all over the place. Let's see. I talked to Cal Baptist, American, Oregon State. It's not too noisy in the background, is it?
No, you're good.
Okay. Oregon State, Oklahoma, Appalachian State, a couple D2 schools on like the East Coast and Midwest that I never really followed through with. Not nothing to the programs, just like I wasn't too interested in them really. And I'm trying to think of what else. I think those are pretty much all of them.
Yeah. So I've known Welch. I didn't really follow him too much in high school, but when he was got in college, like him wrestling at Northwestern, like he had, an epic match with Derek St. John. And I kind of was around him with camps. He's kind of a goofy guy. And I think what's interesting for me is like looking at, I have this philosophy that I think your wrestling style is very much a portrayal of your personality. Like he is a funky person. When you kind of like, I'm sure you knew about him before you actually talked to him and met him. But what was your impression like of him after meeting him?
I've known him I've kind of briefly met him a few times in college, and it was a little more reserved at first, but yeah, no, I really enjoy Welch. I think he's really like genuine and just overall good guy, really. I think I could tell he like cares, and I got to really know him on my visit and kind of like pick his brain on like, I asked him quite a bunch of questions. I asked him about like his kind of like process of grad school, his process of kind of transitioning out of college wrestling, his process into like going into coaching. And it was really cool to kind of like pick his brain on that stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of coaching, is that something that you want to do more like down the line? You want to get into coaching?
Yeah. I'm not really sure what level or to what degree. Yeah, I ambitiously, if I could, like if I had I don't know, $1 million right now, I would like open up my own wrestling academy. Yeah, I think it's a cool opportunity that I think could sustain, my own like lifestyle and living. And I think I get a lot out of it. And that's honestly my kind of goal down the line. As I kind of develop my professional career, is being able to run my own business and have my own wrestling academy. But money just doesn't come out of thin air. So it's definitely after I graduate, I want to coach at any really level. I've always enjoyed the process of breaking things down in wrestling and kind of like articulating things to guys and then working on it. I think one of the funniest things that I think I've ever heard about coaching is Mason Botane talked about this. He's one of the guys on the SF State team. He graduated a few years ago. He said coaching's like training Pokemon, and then you get to send them out to battle. I don't know but you teach them these moves, and then they do it, and you're like, heck yeah.
I wasn't expecting a Pokemon reference.
Yeah, no.
Where you were going with this. I guess it kind of is, right? It's like you get to teach them moves, and you gotta kind of grind and level them up, I think for me, like it's kind of like kids are a lot like more like trying to train a Charizard. It's not always going to listen when you try to like issue them commands. Like you have to get that trust first. You have to build that rapport. I don't know. I feel like for me, like, I don't know if guys that have more accolades like have it easier, because now it's like the kid sees you and it's like, okay, well, this guy was an All-American, or this guy, was a multiple-time state champ or whatever. And kids just like, all right, I'm going to listen. I felt like when I was younger, or when I like just started coaching, because I had just finished competing, like I had that. But now that's like been a longer time, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's something that you'd have to experience, or that's something that guys struggle with that are All-Americans and stuff like that. But Do you have like an idea of like where you would want to coach?
I think it depends on where I live, really. Not really sure. If I could coach on the college level, I'd like to maybe do that for a little bit. Like if I got to figure out my schooling right now. If I end up going to school for 2 years, I'll probably end up coaching at SF State for a year, which would be a cool experience, I think, to coach guys at a higher level, especially in college, But I think really I like the development of really high school guys. I think that's where like I'll enjoy the most out of the process, and I think that's really why I kind of want to do my wrestling academy, is to have those middle school, high school, and even like build kids up from like the youth level, watch them grow and develop as a person, and kind of like make their future. Really, I think that's a really rewarding career.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, there's a couple clubs. I don't know too much about the actual San Francisco city, but I got a buddy that he coaches at Liberty in Brentwood. And they got a club that's pretty tough. And then I don't know if you know like Bay Area Dragons with Greg Varela at Los Gatos. And then Fremont High School with Eric Deuce and Daniel McCoon. Like that was actually the club that I would go train with when I was in high school. So I don't know if you know those guys, but Welch is Pretty close with them. He'll do like camp with them a lot. But yeah, if you end up staying there, dude, there's a ton of places. But San Diego is nice too.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's again like picking, I guess, where I'd want to like coach at. I have a few teammates from Fresno at Poway, so I've always gone down there to kind of wrestle a little bit. And yeah, that's my only connection I guess I have with wrestling down here though. Yeah, I know Bernie's high school is down here. Abbas's other high school.
Rancho
Bernardo. I don't know who coaches there though.
It's Joe Cherubini. Yeah, he was actually a guest on here. He's a good guy. And then there's some guys that I run the podcast with, like they coach at Granite Hills.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of just on the rise. But so Mateo Olmos, I think he's kind of coming back there and helping coach there. And then yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool like seeing, especially in these areas like Poway, for example, like has pretty much had a big kind of stranglehold. Maybe that's not a good term to use, but they pretty much dominated the San Diego area in terms of just kind of pulling talent from across the town. But it's cool seeing like programs like Rancho and Granite have success pretty much in Poway's backyard.
Yeah, I agree.
You're a Vacaville guy, which is kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm from Sacramento. I grew up in Sacramento. There wasn't really too many. I was kind of where I lived was kind of in the middle of all the other places, and I was just kind of like wherever I went to high school, whether I could have went to Del Oro, Elk Grove, what was the other one, Folsom, Vacaville, they were all kind of like the same distance, and ultimately I ended up just going to Vacaville. And I love the decision, really. I love Coach Birch and Mondo Orozco, great guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get those guys on.
Yeah.
Trying to get a lot of the California coaches on here, but
No, yeah, Birch is a gem, and Birch is a gem. He I know a lot of guys who like have come up to me from like who've been on like California wrestling teams that like where coaches Birch has coached, or like even other coaches, and they always mention how like the style and kind of like the rapport that Birch has. I don't know. He's cool. He's a great dude.
Cool, man. Well, hey, we've been going for about an hour. I know you got a game coming up. So
yeah.
Let's just clarify everything. So you're a Giants fan.
I am.
Okay, but you're gonna go to a Padres game.
Yeah.
I mean, do you just like baseball?
I mean, it's something to do, It's like $20 tickets, might as well go.
So I have a bunch of friends that are Padres fans, so they're gonna hear this, dude, and they're gonna hate on you now. But That's okay. What, like, have you been to like a Giants Padres game or like a big game, like a Giants Dodgers game or anything like that?
Like a big game in general,
Yeah,
or
just like, like a big like game, like it's some kind of rivalry or.
honestly, no. Maybe the Giants and the A's. I don't. Maybe when I was smaller. That's all I can really think of.
Well, hopefully you'll get a chance to go to some Giants games when you're in San Francisco.
Yeah, no, definitely. I plan on it.
Hey man, dude, I'm really happy you came on, especially kind of on short notice. And again, congratulations on you going to SF State, man. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm gonna be paying attention. I'm gonna be following, and yeah, I hope everything goes well for you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome, dude. Anytime you want to come on, like you got, some big things you want to talk about, or you have like a big event that's happening, or you have a good performance you want to talk, dude. You're always welcome to come on.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, just let me know. If you want to do more, if you have more questions, we can hop on again. Really.
All right, for sure, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, later.
Yeah.